not going to read out exactly how many times he's tested a day, but sometimes it is more than one time a day.
A tricky stance for the White House as Mr. Trump has suggested the U.S. should pull back on testing.
So I said to my people, slow the testing down, please.
The president is still touting his response to the virus as a success, tweeting, "By comparison to most other countries who are suffering greatly, we are doing very well, and we have done things that few other countries could have done." But hold on. One Trump ally, Senator Lindsey Graham, told reporters we have to up our game in testing. This is a worldwide problem, so the more hands-on, the better. Other Senate Republicans are pushing back on more pandemic response spending.
I just came from a Republican caucus meeting that could be sort of the Bernie Bros progressive caucus. I'm alarmed that we're talking about spending another $1 trillion we don't have.
It was Graham and other Republican advisors who urged the president to return to the briefing room and take questions on the virus. As polls show, the public is rejecting Mr. Trump's handling of COVID-19, but the White House won't commit to including administration health experts like Fauci.
Should we expect to see members of the coronavirus task force? Will Dr. Fauci, will Dr. Birx be there?
You'll have to tune in to see.
The president doesn't sound thrilled to share the stage with the doctor.
He's a little bit of an alarmist. That's okay. A little bit of an alarmist.
I'm an alarmist?
A little bit of an alarmist.
Fauci sees his approach differently.
I consider myself a realist as opposed to an alarmist.
Now, a White House official says it's better to think of this evening's availability with the president as more of a news conference than a task force briefing like we saw earlier this year. Expect the president to talk about immigration and his opposition to renaming military bases, something that has Mr. Trump threatening to veto a defense spending bill this evening. But with the polls sliding against the president all over the place and Mr. Trump's past shaky performances in these briefings, one campaign advisor described the decision to hold more evening news conferences to me this way, saying it's a gamble, adding that the president, quote, better feel the pressure because the pressure is on. Wolf.
Jim Acosta, you're absolutely right. Thank you very, very much. Let's get some more on all of this. Joining us now, our chief medical correspondent, Dr. Sanjay Gupta. Sanjay, let me get your thoughts, first of all, on the return of this coronavirus task force, a media briefing that we're supposedly going to be hearing from the president shortly. Dr. Fauci just told Jake Tapper he wasn't invited to attend this briefing. Can these briefings really be informative without the president's presence of medical experts like Dr. Fauci, Dr. Birx, Dr. Redfield, Dr. Hahn?
I think we absolutely need to hear from these folks, Wolf. I mean, and I don't think I'm just saying that as a medical person. I think, you know, there is a major public health crisis going on, the biggest that we've seen in our lifetimes. I mean, this is the biggest issue really in the world right now. And some of the people that you've just named, Wolf, you know, they are people who the world turns to. The other countries like to solicit their advice, and how could it be that Dr. Fauci hasn't even briefed the president today before this type of meeting? So I think we absolutely need to hear from them. I also think that they would be talking about a path forward, Wolf, right? I mean, we need to figure out how to best get through this. And also, you know, sadly, Wolf, they're necessary to correct and fact check some of the things the president has said, which have been wrong and sometimes dangerous. So, yes, they should absolutely be there. It would show a united front between the White House and these scientists.
You know, what's interesting, Sanjay, and we're going to put it up on the screen, as you can see on this national trend map, the nationwide surge in new coronavirus cases seems to have stabilized a little bit compared to recent weeks, albeit at a very, very high level. Are we still seeing some of these? Are we seeing some of these new restrictions, mask mandates in certain places, for example, beginning to help? 56,000, almost 57,000 new cases just yesterday here in the U.S.
I'd like to believe that, Wolf. I think it's too early to tell. I mean, that's one of the challenges with this overall, is that there is this lag time. You implement a measure, and then it takes some time to see the impact of that. You could just have these, you know, changes in testing and little variables that affect things day to day. You really got to follow this out over weeks and months. So I think it's a little bit early to say. And, you know, we sort of got lulled into this before, right, Wolf, where we thought, okay, look, it's plateauing. Things start to open up as a result. We're heading in the right direction, and we saw what happened there. So we got to have definitive proof that the numbers are coming down 14 days in a row in all these areas before they start to, move to the next phase.
Let me play something for you, Sanjay. I want you to listen to Dr. Fauci's answer to Jake about vaccine development and whether everyone should get the vaccine if there is a good new approved vaccine, even if the first one released isn't necessarily, let's say, 100% effective?
I would not wait to see if one was better than another, because the very fact that it gets approved by the FDA means that it's good enough to protect you. The relative percentage of how good it's going to be, you may get one vaccine that's a bit better than the other, but I would say that some protection by a vaccine is certainly better than no protections.
You agree with Dr. Fauci's assessment?
Yeah, I mean, I think people tend to think of this like an iPhone or something, right? I'm going to wait for the next model, let them work out the kinks in the first model. Maybe that's what was sort of driving the question or the concern. We need a vaccine. I mean, you know, we're in the middle of a pandemic. So there are several different platform vaccines that are coming out, and you may start to get a couple of options sort of arriving around the same time, Wolf. So I think in that case, people may have an option, or there may be one that works better for other people versus another one. So there may be some decision points. But I think right now, you know, we'd like to think that we got to that point, right? That we're going to have multiple opportunities. I think the vaccine that comes out that is approved, shown to be safe and effective, is the one that we should, you know, sort of at least start to implement and distribute around the world.
All right, Sanjay, I want you to stand by. We have more to discuss. We're up next, the first White House coronavirus briefing in almost 3 months as the pandemic ravages parts of the United States, and that includes California, which is about to surpass New York in the total number of cases. We have lost the report. We'll be right back.
The Situation Room with Wolf Blitzer. Brought to you by the makers of PreserVision AirEds 2 Formula I vitamins.
My age-related macular degeneration could lead to vision loss. So today I made a plan with my doctor, which includes PreserVision, because he said a multivitamin alone may not be enough. And it's my vision, my morning walk, my Sunday drive, my grandson's beautiful face.
Only PreserVision AirEds 2 contains the exact nutrient formula recommended by the National Eye Institute to help reduce the risk of moderate to advanced AMD progression.
It's how I see my life, because it's my vision, PreserVision.
I always thought it was me, that I was the reason all these diets never worked.
This is genuinely not a temporary fix. There's some serious psychology behind it.
It's funny how much smarter I feel like Noom has made me. It's the simple things.
Once I understood why I was making those choices, it was easy for me to change those habits, and weight loss came naturally after that.
I've been on Noom for 4 months now. I've lost 27 pounds, and I feel like I got my life back.
Visit Noom.com and lose the weight for good.
You've spent a lot of time at home lately, so start dreaming about a new one with the Redfin app. See all the homes for sale updated every 5 minutes. Find one you like, favorite it, share it, and drop comments right in the app. Then go inside without leaving your couch with a 3D walkthrough. And if you really like one, book a home tour on demand for free with a Redfin agent. Download the Redfin app today.
USAA is made for what's next. No matter what challenges life throws at you, we're always here to help. With fast response and great service. And it doesn't stop there. We're also here to help look ahead. That's why we're helping members catch up by spreading any missed USAA insurance payments over the next 12 months, so you can keep more cash in your pockets for when it matters most. And that's just one of the many ways we're here to help the military community. Find out more at USAA.com.
When I noticed my sister moving differently, she said it was like someone else was controlling her mouth. Her doctor said she has tardive dyskinesia, which may be related to important medication she takes for her depression. TD can affect different parts of the body.
In today's trying times, we're here to help you manage TD. Visit talkabouttd.com for a doctor discussion guide to prep for your next appointment in person, over the phone, or online.
We were so relieved to learn there are treatments for TD.
Meet Litter Robot.
A robot?
Yes, the Litter Robot. The highest rated self-cleaning automatic litter box in the world. It does all the dirty work for you.
You know what I'm talking about.
Boop. The Litter Robot automatically cycles after each use, sifting out those dirty clumps and leaving a fresh bed of litter every time Kitty needs to shit.
generation, you can save money and save the planet. Enough of them. It's time for Rust.
I remember that feeling of being back, being able to go back out and do all the things that I wouldn't or couldn't do before.
Once you get your new teeth, it's like opening up a whole new world.
After the dental implant procedure, I've seen patients change almost immediately.
I feel great. I feel confident. Don't put it off because it doesn't have to be that way.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Colace.
Constipation can happen all around us. You just need to know where to look. Luckily, there's Colace for gentle relief of occasional constipation. Constipation happens.
We're watching all the late-breaking developments in the coronavirus pandemic. I want to bring in our chief political analyst, Gloria Borger, and Dr. Leana Wen, the former city health commissioner of Baltimore. Gloria, give us your thoughts on the return of this task force briefing in light of the president's apparent decision to not include actual task force members, medical experts like Dr. Fauci or Dr. Birx or Dr. Redfield.
Well, this is a president who wants this to be his show. Doesn't want anyone else on the stage with him. And I think that what we know from the president being alone is that this is largely about his poll numbers and about his reelection. That there are people inside the White House, and I've spoken with 2 Republican sources about this, who believe that the president's falling poll numbers are because he isn't seen to be in charge of handling the pandemic. So as a result, they want to put him out there. They want him to seem like he is the one leading the charge against the coronavirus. However, you know, this could also turn the other way for him. The other briefings, which we saw for days and days, after the president briefed on the virus, his poll numbers started heading south. So this is risky for them, but there are those who feel that they have no other choice but to put the president out there talking about the pandemic, because that is what the election is going to be about, Wolf.
That's the biggest issue facing the country right now. Dr. Wen, you wrote an op-ed back in April about ways the White House could actually improve the coronavirus briefings. And now that the briefings have returned with the president, what would you like to see?
Well, first of all, I would like to see Wolf public health experts leading the briefing, because this is a public health crisis and their voices should be at the forefront. Then I want to hear the science. I want to hear real numbers about what is the state of the outbreak. Ideally, the CDC, Dr. Fauci, trusted messengers would tell us about what's happening, not trying to paint a rosy picture for what they wish for happening, what we all wish for happening, but what's actually happening. Where are the surges? What are we the most concerned about? Then I want to hear them also explain the science. These are the top scientists and public health leaders in the world. I want them to tell us about what's happening with vaccine trials, what's happening with treatment. How did they come up with these guidelines, for example, around school reopening? What's the science behind that? That's top of mind for so many people. And then finally, and I actually think most importantly, I want to hear an acknowledgement of what are the problems that actually local officials, state officials, hospitals are facing. For example, the shortage of PPE, the fact that tests are taking 10 to 14 days, which is absurd, to come back. I want to hear them acknowledge the problems and then say, here's what we're going to do about it. This is the path forward. Here's how we in the federal government are going to lead on a national strategy. I'm not sure that that's what's going to happen in the briefing today, but that's what I wish, Wolf, because that's what the American people need.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We certainly do need that kind of national leadership, not delegating everything to cities, counties, or states. Gloria, you mentioned polls, that's a motivating factor for the president. His poll numbers are not good. The national polls, Biden is ahead by double digits over the president. The president's job approval numbers, the last one we saw was in the high 30s, not very encouraging job approval as far as the president is concerned. You think that this is what's driving the president primarily, the failing poll numbers right now?
Yeah. I think they finally convinced him that those are real. And if you look at his disapproval numbers on the handling of the virus, which, as I said before, is the key issue, the disapproval number has increased about 12 points over the last 3 months. And so if you're running for re-election, you have to figure out a way to get ahead of this. And the problem is, Wolf, and I've been told by sources close to the White House about this, is that the president doesn't seem to want to be briefed any more than he's already being briefed. He's spending a lot of time in front of the television set, learns a lot of information there. And so the president hasn't been attending the coronavirus task force meetings. And so when you go out in front of the public and you want to answer the questions that Dr. Wen is talking about, the real questions that doctors have and that the American public has about testing, for example, you have to be able to be informed enough to give the answers to those questions. And so if I were Donald Trump, and I'm not, I would want to have those scientists and those doctors surrounding me so they could give the American public the information that they crave and give the public the sense that Donald Trump is actually working with the doctors and not opposed to the doctors.
Yeah, and we're told he really hasn't been attending many of those task force meetings in the Situation Room over at the White House. The vice president is usually in charge of those meetings. You know, Dr. Wen, the last time the president joined a task force briefing, a media briefing, what was April 27th, at that time there were nearly 1 million confirmed coronavirus cases in the United States. Nearly 55,000 Americans had died from the virus. Today, only 3 months later, there are nearly 4 million confirmed cases and more than 141,000 Americans have died. So what are your thoughts as we look at these grim comparisons, especially when the president tweeted today, we are doing very well?
On what measure are we doing very well? We're seeing escalating numbers of infections. Now we're seeing hospitals, ICUs becoming overwhelmed once again. We thought we went through that once in New York, and now we're going through that all over the country. Now we're seeing mortality rates beginning to increase. We're seeing many more preventable deaths. We are seeing also so many other countries that had cases around the same time that we did. They were able to not only flatten the curve, they crushed the curve. They got their cases essentially to zero, and then they were able to reopen their economies. They were able to get their kids back to school safely. They're able to resume lives in ways that we have not. So I really don't know what the president is talking about. I want to be optimistic,
so closely, and it just
hold on a second. President things answering some questions now. I want to listen.
Horrible disease that should have never been allowed to escape China, but it did. And it infected the world, and the world is suffering, but we're going to get it taken care of, and we're helping lots of other countries. John?
Mr. President, first I just wanted to get a clarification. Your press secretary said today that you sometimes take more than one test a day. Well, why is that? And how often?
Well, I didn't know about more than one. I do take probably on average a test every 2 days, 3 days, and I don't know of any time I've taken 2 tests in one day, but I could see that happening.
So Republicans and Democrats on Capitol Hill both said that they want to see more money for testing. They want to send billions of dollars to the states so they can do more testing. And you probably saw Mick Mulvaney the other day said that his kids, it took them a week to get test results back. He said this is simply inexcusable given where we are in the pandemic. Do you think we have a problem with testing in this country right now? And are you in favor of more money for testing?
We've done more testing by far than anybody. Some of the tests, because it is massive volume, it takes longer. Others of the tests, as you know, are very quick. They're 5 minutes and 15-minute tests. And those are, frankly, the ones that I prefer. But we're doing massive numbers, and the numbers are coming down. And as we go, as an example, there are thousands and thousands of kits being made right now, which give you a 15-minute and a 5-minute test. So we'll be able to get those numbers down. Those numbers are similar in other places. They're also doing massive numbers like nobody thought possible. But those numbers will be coming down. I agree. I think it's a good thing if we can do it.
Are you in favor of more money for testing?
Well, they're going to make a presentation to me tonight and tomorrow on that. And again, we're leading the world. I think the second country at 12 million, we're going to be over 50 million tests. Second country is India with 12 million. Then you have 7 million, 6 million, and 4 million. I think that we are doing tremendous amount of testing. But if the doctors and the professionals feel that even though we're at a level that nobody ever dreamt possible, that they would like to do more, I'm okay with it.
Why are your doctors not with you here today? Where's Dr. Fauci, Dr. Birx?
Well, Dr. Birx is right outside. Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've got 2 questions for you, if that's all right. Number 1, I just wanted to know, in November, do you want the American people to judge
Can you
on
speak up, please?
Do you want the American people to judge you on the ballot in November by how you've handled this pandemic so far?
This, among other things, I think the American people will judge us on this, but they'll judge us on the economy that I created and that already we're creating. We're setting record job numbers, as you know. I think we're going to have a very strong year next year. I think we're going to have a very strong third quarter, a very good fourth quarter, but I think next year is going to be a record year. And I think they're going to judge me on that. I think they're going to judge me on the tax cutting and the regulation cutting, which nobody's ever done to the extent that we've been able to do it, on rebuilding the military, on how we've handled the VA. On the VA, we got Veterans Choice. Nobody thought that would be possible. That's been many decades. They've been trying to get Veterans Choice. It's called Choice, where they can go get a doctor if they have to wait online for 2 weeks or 5 weeks or 2 days. And frankly, that's been a great thing. Veterans accountability, I think they'll judge me on that. They'll judge me on all of the things we've done. I don't think, and I think we can say this, we sure, and it's never been even challenged in 3.5 years, the first 3.5 years, the first years of a presidency, I don't think any administration, any president has accomplished so much as we've accomplished, from energy to health to so many other things. And then this came in, and the plague, I call it the plague came in, terrible thing, should have been stopped, wasn't stopped. It came in, we had to shut things down to save potentially millions of lives. We did that, and now we've started them up, and I think we've really started it up very successfully.
Mr. President, thank you, Mr. President. You've been saying for months the virus would simply disappear, and now you're saying that it's likely to get worse before it gets better. If it does keep getting worse, if Americans keep dying, are you responsible for that?
Well, the virus will disappear. It will disappear. I think that I always like to say, as you know, either way, when you look at it, the governors are working with me. I'm working with the governor. We're working hand in hand. I think we're all responsible. I view it as a team. Very good relationships with the governors. Very, very good relationships. I could say I'm fully responsible, but, you know, one day we had a virus come in, and I closed the borders, did a lot of things that were very good. In fact, Dr. Fauci said we saved tens of thousands of lives when I closed the border, and nobody wanted to do it. I wanted to do it. We closed the border to China. We put on the ban. We didn't want people coming in from heavily infected China. Fairly shortly thereafter, I closed the borders from Europe, coming in from Europe. Those were tremendous moves. We would have, if it's one person, it's too much, but we're at, let's say, 140,000. We could have double, triple, quadruple that number if we didn't. So we did a lot of things right. We did a lot of things right, including with equipment. So, it's a shame that it happened. It shouldn't have happened. China should have stopped it.
Thank you, President Trump. If I could, 2 questions. My first question is, we have a very quick testing platform here at the White House.
Yes.
It's great. You get tested, you know, very quickly. Do you think that it would be easier to reopen and restart businesses if we could produce more of those machines?
We're trying to do that. Great question. We're trying very much to do that. So rather than sending your tests in and, you know, it goes through the mail one day, comes back another day, no matter how they send them, it's a day and a day, so that's 2 days already wasted. And then if it spends by the time you get it back, it's 3 or 4 days if they do an efficient job. We're trying to get the testing on site.
Thank you.
I like it the best.
And my follow-up, my second question, it's a little bit different topic, but it's one that a lot of people are talking about. Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison, and so a lot of people want to know if she's going to turn in powerful people. And I know you've talked in the past about Prince Andrew, and you've criticized Bill Clinton's behavior. I'm wondering, do you feel that she's going to turn in powerful men? How do you see that working out?
I don't know. I haven't really been following it too much. I just wish her well, frankly. I've met her numerous times over the years, especially since I lived in Palm Beach, and I guess they lived in Palm Beach. But I wish her well. whatever it is. I don't know the situation with Prince Andrew. Just don't know. Not aware of it.
Mr. President. On unemployment insurance, how much below $600 are you willing to go? And you said that the economy is bouncing back strong, so why do we need to even cut it at all?
Well, the economy is getting stronger, and I think we have a chance to have a very strong economy, especially if some of the things that I just spoke about work. We want to have people go back and want to go back to work, as opposed to be sort of forced into a position where they're making more money than they expected to make, and the employers are having a hard time getting them back to work. So that was a decision that was made. I was against that original decision, but they did that. It still worked out well because it gave people a lifeline, a real lifeline. Now we're doing it again. They're thinking about doing 70% of the amount. The amount would be the same, but doing it in a little bit smaller initial amounts so that people are going to want to go back to work, as opposed to making so much money that they really don't have to. But we were very generous with them. I think that it's been a tremendously successful program. The whole thing has been successful if you look. I mean, we're in a pandemic, and yet we're producing tremendous number of jobs. That was something that nobody thought possible. Okay, please.
Mr. President, thank you very much. Yesterday you said that wearing a mask was an act of patriotism. If that is the case, why don't you do it more frequently?
Well, I do actually do it when I need. I mean, I carry the mask when I have to go. I went into Walter Reed Hospital the other day. I have the mask right here, and I carry it, and I will use it gladly. No problem with it. And I've said that, and I say, if you can, use the mask. When you can, use the mask. If you're close to each other, if you're in a group, I would put it on when I'm in a group. If I'm in an elevator and there are other people with me, including like security people, it's not their fault. They have to be in the elevator. I want to protect them also. I put on a mask. I have no problem with the masks. I view it this way. Anything that potentially can help, and that certainly can potentially help, is a good thing. I have no problem. I carry it. I wear it. You saw me wearing it a number of times, and I'll continue. Please.
Can I ask a quick follow-up?
Go ahead, please.
So are you sending mixed messages, though? Yesterday you tweeted out an image wearing a mask, and then last evening we saw you not wearing a mask at your hotel.
Well, I don't know the hotel. I was pretty far away from people, but I would say this. I've explained it, I think, very well. If you're close together, I would put on the mask, and if you're not, I would say that if you're, for instance, I'll see, like here, you've been all tested, I've been tested. Oftentimes I'll be with people that are fully tested, I've been tested. In theory, you don't need the mask. I'm getting used to the mask, and the reason is, think about patriotism. Maybe it is, it helps. It helps. Now, we have experts that have said in the recent past that masks aren't necessarily good to wear. You know that. But now they've changed their mind. If they change their mind, that's good enough for me. So I wear it when appropriate. Please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, sir. A lot of Americans, though, may be surprised at your change of tone over all of this, a more perhaps realistic tone. Some would look at it that way. The sudden embrace of masks, social distancing,
Well, I've always agreed with that. I mean, I've never fought either one, but certainly social distancing. I want to. That's common sense. 6 feet to me is common sense. I'd like to say maybe make it a little bit further.
The idea that things will get worse perhaps before they get better here, and perhaps the realization that this resurgence, if you will, is for real when you used to talk about it in terms of little fires being put out here and there.
We have them too. No, we have embers and fires, and we have big fires, and unfortunately now Florida is in a little tough or in a big tough position. You have a great governor there. You have a great governor in Texas. You have people that are very, very skilled people, and I think they're going to handle it very well. Their hospital capacities are holding up, but Texas is a big state, and it's very well run, and so is Florida, and I think they'll do a very good job.
You changing your tone, though, sir?
I just wanted to ask you about the issue of vaccines, which you already mentioned. Yesterday, a study by a Chinese company showed some promising results for its coronavirus vaccine candidate. If China were first in developing the vaccine, or even if it weren't, would the administration be willing to work with China to bring a successful Chinese vaccine to the U.S.?
Yeah, we're willing to work with anybody that's going to get us a good result. We're very close to the vaccine. I think we're going to have some very good results. We're already in testing. Nobody thought that would be possible. Under the old system, it would be a year to 2 years before you could even think about using the word testing. So I think we've had a lot of, and the reason we're testing them, they've had good results. So now we have to see in the testing also for safety, because they have to make sure it's safe. And I think you're going to see something over the next fairly short period of time, maybe very short period of time, having to do with therapeutics and vaccines that are very good. So we'll be doing these quite often. We're going to keep you abreast of this, and we'll also talk about some of the other topics like our economy, which is doing well. The stock market had another good day. I think they have a good day because they see a lot of positive things happening on this front too. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, the President wrapping up a relatively short Q&A with reporters over there at the White House.